What's going on, guys? Hope you guys are doing super well. Let's talk cars here, and today we're going to be doing a small video here. My name is Evan. If you did not know, I have two other channels that I will link in the description along with some other things that I'm going to talk about in a second. So, I had this idea to start this new channel called Let's Talk Cars, where I nerd out about cars, because I'm a big nerd about cars. Now, you might be thinking, wait a second, Evan, you're 13 years old. Now, how do you know about cars if you're 13? I've been watching Top Gear since I was 6. I know about cars. I have done research on cars. I've done a lot of things that are related to that good old automobile that goes very fast and gets us places to most people, but I'm going to go in depth in this channel about cars. So, not everybody cares about cars. Everybody just thinks of them as like a mode of transportation to get you from one place to the other. But nobody really knows how much engineering goes into getting a car built so you can actually move in it. So, in this episode, I'm not going to be talking too in depth, but this is kind of just an introduction of what we're going to be talking about. Not this all the time. We're not going to be talking about the same thing all the time. Of course, it's YouTube. You have to change it up always. You have to be thinking of new ideas. But, okay, so this is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about the first car ever made and how, in my opinion, burning natural gasoline, as most people will think of it as, burning gasoline, which is a fossil fuel that does pollute the air, I will agree, is the best way for cars to supply energy to themselves for now. So, let's get into the video. So, as you might not have known, that the first car was made in 1769 by a guy named Jonathan, I'm going to butcher this name, Hogwinsberg, who actually thought of his basically just wagon. It was not even looking like some of the cars we have today. His wagon with a steamed power engine would actually work, and it went to be picked up in 1771 by a guy named Joseph Signot. And he called it the steam wagon. Very simple. So, if you didn't know about the history of the very first car, which was basically just a wagon powered by steam, there is your little brief history of the first car in the world. So, it's actually very interesting that a guy all the way back in 1769, created something that is on the roads and just completely taken up our entire world. I mean, we're building roads around neighborhoods. I mean, I do agree that it's really bad for our environment. These cars are, I mean, as they grow in population, they keep affecting the environment more and more. So that's what I'm going to talk about next. So, you might think of gasoline as a pollutant, and it is. It's a very big pollutant. There is one good effect to it, that it releases a gas we call CO2. And CO2 is a mixture, you probably already know this, with one carbon atom and two oxygen atoms. My bad, molecules. One carbon molecule and two oxygen molecules. And when those go together, they can go into plants, and then plants absorb them. It goes through a process called photosynthesis, which makes glucose, which makes energy for the plants. And then the plants, as a byproduct, pumps out oxygen into the air for us humans and animals in general to breathe back in. So, that's that one good effect, but there are also a lot of bad effects to gasoline. One that, a lot of people believe that it is causing global warming because of the pollution. And it just causes a lot of air pollution that we actually end up stabbing ourselves back in the back, I guess you could say. Because when pollutants and cool air, combine, they make this thing called smog, which is basically a fog that it's hard to drive in smog because it blocks your vision completely. It's hard to really see everything when you're driving in smog. Not that I've ever experienced it, but I've been in a car with fog, and smog is like 10 times worse, so, it's probably going to be pretty bad. So, let's talk about the first car that was ever run on gasoline. So, the first car that was ever made and run by gasoline was made by a guy by the name of Benz. So Benz probably went on to make the company you probably all know. He obviously made the company you all know as Mercedes-Benz. Yes, I used to think it was called Mercedes, and that's just a shortening to the term. I figured that out in like 4th grade or something like that. I'm in 7th grade now. But yes, so Mercedes-Benz, he went on to create that company. Well, I don't know if he created it. I'm not too extensive into that, but somebody of his either descent or I don't know. It was probably it. Most likely it was him. I'm going to have an educated guess here and say that Benz made the company Mercedes-Benz. Anyway, so he was the designer of the first patented gasoline-powered engine, which went to be on as a car that as a power we all use to power our cars today, which is crazy because the thing with gas is it's the most efficient way to move your car, to fuel your car. Move your car. Pfft, what am I thinking? To fuel your car, gasoline is the most efficient way because a gallon of gasoline can take you miles depending on what car you're in. I mean, some cars have 10 miles to the gallon, some cars have 20 or 30. It's crazy how cars are able to store that gasoline in a way that it makes the car more efficient and it fuels the car for longer. But yeah, it was created by this guy named Benz back in 1885, and it was the first patented gasoline engine that would go on, again, to be a popular world phenomenon, powering most of our cars today. Yes, we do have hybrids and we do have electric cars, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. Yes, so the good old hybrid, the good old electric-powered car. Yeah, hybrid, by the way, is not just an electric-powered car. For those of you that did not know, it's also powered by gas and electricity, so you can kind of switch between the ones, and it's also more efficient for powering them with both. Anyway, so the thing with electricity is we have not found a way to make it as efficient as gas, meaning that you can only get a certain amount of miles before you run out of charge, and for gas, it takes like, average probably like 3-4 minutes to pump your car up. To power a battery-powered Tesla, let's just go to Tesla, because Tesla is a good example of an electric car, of a company run by Elon Musk, by the way, if you didn't know. Tesla is a good company that is really out there as it goes for electric cars. Also Toyota with their Prius, which is a hybrid, and it also can be an electric car. There are 2 models that you can get. You can get the Prius hybrid, and you can get the Prius just plain electric car. There are no Prius there are no Prius gasoline-powered only cars. But anyway, with Tesla, the thing about Tesla is that they take so long to charge. They take about a good 12 hours to charge up all the way from a complete, dead battery to a full battery. So you have to wait a whole 12 hours to get back in your car if you drain the whole battery. That would take a lot of time. Could you imagine going on a road trip, there are no supercharger stations around. That's another problem with electric cars, is not yet, at least. There are no electric charging stations in a 10-mile radius of where you live, depending on where you live. It doesn't really matter. I mean, at least where I live, the only one that's closest to me is like 30 miles away, which is crazy. That would mean I have to drive a whole 30 miles, and my battery would be dead by the time I get there. I'd rather just drive home and have like a supercharging station there. That's the thing with these cars, is there's not enough charging stations. Maybe as they grow, maybe as they get more popular, there will be, instead of gas stations, maybe some gas stations will start to close, lowering the amount of gas that will be pumped out of them. And then maybe some supercharger stations will come in. Anyway, a problem with supercharger stations, little side note here, and also electric cars in general, is the thing with where their batteries are made. The thing with that is most of the time they're made in power plants and factories, which release pollutants into the air. So you would be better off driving your car, which has a lesser impact on the pollution that is set off into the air than driving an electric car, which it takes methane gas. Well, maybe not methane gas, but I actually read about this just today. Mercury can be released as a waste product from power plants. So, and also factories. Sometimes factories get like mercury gases like stuck in there, and they have to pump it up through those big pipes. Have you ever seen those things? The size, it's like huge. Those pumps are huge, and we're pumping a bunch of stuff out, a bunch of crap out of those pumps that are going into the air. And is when they're making your battery for your car, there are certain chemicals that have to go in there, and some chemicals are like run off into the waters. It's a lot of more pollution if you have an electric car than if you have a gas-powered car. Now, I understand gas-powered cars are not perfect. I'm not trying to say that they're perfect. Gas-powered cars have a lot of flaws too, but I'm just saying you would be better off, pollution-wise, to go with a gas-powered car. But it does have a lesser impact in the long run if we all switch to electric cars, because, we wouldn't have so much air pollution. But still, like I said, we would still have water pollution if waste comes from factory to water. Some waste from the batteries being made goes into the water, which some factories do that. I'm not kidding. Some factories actually take runoff from their factories, and they have pumps that go into the water, and they just pour stuff in the water. It's crazy that they do that, but sometimes we don't have any other place to put it. We don't have, like, landfills where we can just dig up and put stuff in there. Even though that might be a good idea, we still don't have that. Anyway, I lost my complete train of thought of what I was going to say. Anyway, I think I was probably talking about Teslas, but Teslas need to have charging stations, and I agree that Teslas are efficient, but their batteries need to last longer. If their batteries last longer, then go for it. They are pretty darn expensive still, but we can go for making, a better way to not pollute the environment. But I'm saying, until we have figured out a way to make battery-powered cars in a way that they do not produce factory waste and that they run more efficiently, that's when we can really start to think about switching all of our cars over. So, until then, gasoline is our only choice. Thanks for watching this video. I'm Evan from Let's Talk Cars. I'll see you in the next one.